General Joseph Andrew stepped into the heart of a destruction rocket as alarms screamed around him. Red warning lights flashed across the steel walls and the countdown echoed like a heartbeat racing toward disaster. Inside, Stanley calm. Before the control panel was James Anderson, the evil genius behind the batonator. His eyes gleamed with trepidation as the rocket prepared to launch. "So you made it, General," Anderson said coldly. "You're too late. The world will remember my brilliance." General Joseph Andrew raised his weapons but did not fire. "This ends now, Anderson. Power without conscience always destroys itself." As Anderson turned back to controls, General Joseph Andrew lunged forward, ripping wires from the panel. Sparks flew and the countdown froze at 3 seconds. The rocket shuttle that then fell silent. Realizing his defeat, Anderson collapsed to his knees as military forces stormed the chamber and took into custody. The batonator destroyed it could ever launch. As General Joseph Andrew walked out of the faculty and into the rising sunlight, the world was safe once more. The threat was over, the evil genius defeated, and history would remember this day as the end of the batonator. James Anderson sneered and said, "I come to destroy you, Loophole." General Joseph Andrews shook his head firmly. "No." Before Anderson could respond, a powerful wind roared from the launch chamber. The wall trembled and a sharp cracking noise split the air as metal began to fracture under the pressure. Outside, soldiers watched in tense silence. Then, as the sound grew louder and the tree began to collapse, they realized what was happening. The batonator was falling. Cheers erupted across the base. The soldiers raised their fists and shouted General Joseph Andrews' name as the cracking noise echoed one final time. The enemy's plan was breaking apart and hope had won. Suddenly, the Obama's force of absolutely attacked the soldiers guarding the nuclear power station. Explosions shook the ground as alarms wailed across the military zone. At the same time, a giant shockwave slapped into James Anderson's destruction rocket, shaking it violently. From the side to side, metal screamed under pressure, and the entire structure began to collapse. From inside the chaos, a very loud voice echoed through the smoke fire. "General!" "Sorry for a minute." The word confused everyone. The truth was revealed. The narrator had a mistake. In the case of mistaken identity created by the military empire, spreading false signs and voice to confuse the battlefield. The cry for help was not from ally, but a deception meant to divide the forces. General Joseph Andrew realized it instantly. "This ends now," he said, as the rocket continued to collapse and the enemy's lines fell apart with it. The noise faded, the ground settled, and the final chapter of the conflict moved toward its end. General Joseph Andrew yelled from far away, his voice cutting through the smoke and roaring wind. "Stand down! This His words echoed across the battlefield, louder than the cracking metal and the falling engines of the rocket. Soldiers froze, turning towards the sound of his command. Even James Anderson heard it. The destruction rocket shuddered one last time as the power system failed completely. Silence followed, heavy and final. General Joseph Andrew lowered his arm as the dust settled. The battle was over, and his voice had carried the enemy. The two began arguing, their voices slamming against each other like crashing steel. You've already lost, General Joseph Andrews shouted, his voice echoing through the lunar chamber. James Anderson roared back. Lost? You don't understand anything. This world needed to need destruction to reborn. You call this reborn? The general yelled, pointing at the shattered rocket. All I see is death and lies. Anderson stepped forward, screaming, You're afraid of change. I'm afraid of monsters who call themselves saviors. General Joseph Andrews slammed back. Their voices thundered through the smoke-filled room, each word heavy, each shout shaking the air, until the argument itself felt like the final battle. And outside, the soldiers listened, knowing this clash of voices would decide everything. General Joseph Andrews stepped forward, his voice steadied now, cutting through the chaos. Enough. The word alone carried authority. The shouting stopped. Even the wind seemed to pass, and as he stood tall amid the wreckage, eyes locked on James Anderson. This war ends unresponsive. The general said at its end now. Silence followed, heavy and final, as everyone understood who truly held control.